Hello guys, welcome back to our anime explainer. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel, thank you. Today is explanation of upcoming episode of Battle Through the Heavens based on novel. So let's start. A bonfire was emitting a faint fire seedling within the dark forest. Light spread, causing the forest within a 100-meter radius to be dyed with a faint red glow. Xiao Yan was seated cross-legged beside the bonfire. The light from the flame lit up his face, and seemed to have covered his body with a layer of faint red yarn. At this moment, both of his eyes were tightly shut. The fire seal between his eyebrows was emitting a faint, weak light. This silence continued a while before Xiao Yan suddenly opened both of his eyes. An invisible energy surged from between his brows. It swiftly wiggled beside him and transformed into a human figure. Moreover, the appearance of this person seemed like a replica of Xiao Yan. Xiao Yan turned his head to look at this avatar. He could vaguely see the light that was emitted from the flame through its body. The strength of this avatar should be only at the Do Ling class. Moreover, the time it can exist is too short. If it was someone with sharp eyes, the person would be able to tell what it is at a glance. Xiao Yang frowned and softly muttered. According to the training method within Xiao Yang's mind, his first step was to form an avatar. If one successfully formed an avatar, all one needed to do next was to temper this avatar until it controlled a strength similar to the creator's strength. Although this was easy to say, it was extremely difficult to do it. Given Fei Qian's ability, he had only gotten his avatar to reach the intermediate level despite having honed it for so many years. There was still a great distance before it reached the mastery level. Moreover, Xiao Yang had only just completed the first step. There was a vast gap until the next step. According to what the training method states, one needs to gradually merge the wind lightning strength into the avatar, and then use the wind lightning strength to hide the spiritual ripple. Thus, it would act as a defense as well as hide the spiritual secret. Xiao Yang looked at the avatar beside him as this thought swiftly lingered in his heart. The lightning glow on the surface of Fei Qian's avatar back then can likely be explained by this. Moreover, the wind lightning strength had also become the attacking technique of his avatar. Its strength is quite great, however, there is no wind lightning strength within my body. The little bit I had absorbed when practicing the 3000 lightning movement back then is far from sufficient to temper this avatar. What should I do? Xiao Yang frowned while he thought about this. If the avatar did not have the protection of the wind lightning strength, it would definitely be at a severe disadvantage if it met with a powerful thing like the fallen heart flame that could cause damage to a spirit. The fate of Fei Qian's avatar was the best case study, but where can I get this wind lightning strength? Back then, I had worked so hard only to end up absorbing a little wind lightning strength that is barely sufficient to practice the 3000 lightning movement. The bamboo firewood in Xiao Yang's hand was smashed into powder without him realizing it. He involuntarily laughed upon seeing this. This 3000 lightning illusionary body had caused him to have a headache. Xiao Yang's finger pressed on the avatar beside him. It shook before transforming into an invisible light that entered the spot between Xiao Yang's brows. With a wave of Xiao Yang's hand, the earth demon puppet appeared. It guarded him. Only then did Xiao Yang slowly shut his eyes. His mind moved, entering the spiritual sea in his brows. Xiao Yang's illusionary figure slowly surfaced in the sea region. The spiritual strength in front of him fluctuated slightly, and a tiny light spot emitted a faint glow. Immediately, the avatar appeared amid the spiritual fluctuation below. The spirit of Xiao Yang sat cross-legged, while the avatar, in front of him, also swiftly sat down. Xiao Yang gently exhaled a breath of air after seeing this. He beckoned with his hand and a cluster of fallen heart flame appeared. The spiritual sea below Xiao Yang fluctuated the moment this cluster of fallen heart flame appeared. Although this thing had already been subdued by Xiao Yang, its effect of restraining a spirit still caused the spiritual strength to keep its distance. Xiao Yang's mind was maintained in an undistracted condition. He slowly suppressed the flame's temperature. While the flame's temperature fell, the various visual cues given by the avatar also entered Xiao Yang's head. After which, Xiao Yang identified the best temperature in a lightning-like manner. This was an extremely difficult form of control. It required an extremely harsh flame control ability. Under the refinement of the fallen heart flame, the avatar was slowly becoming stronger. At the same time, Xiao Yang needed to control the flame's temperature and raise it according to the resistance of the avatar. Thus, he had to repeatedly adjust the temperature of the fallen heart flame in order to obtain the tempering effect. This efficient control consumed a great amount of mental capacity. Even with Xiao Yang's endurance, he was clearly able to sense a tired feeling slowly spreading out from deep within his soul. Although the process exhausted a great amount of attention, it must be said that Xiao Yang's control of the fallen heart flame had already reached a perfect stage. The original illusory avatar was gradually becoming substance-like under the tempering of the fallen heart flame. This process might be very slow, but if Fei Qian and those people in the Wind Lightning Pavilion who practiced the 3000 lightning illusionary body were to see this, it was likely that their jaws would drop. Such a speed might appear slow, but it was already extremely frightening. Compared to this, the speed of them using the wind lightning strength to temper their avatar seemed to be like a tortoise crawling. Tian Huazunja smiled in a pleased manner upon seeing Xiao Yang enter a rhythm after a simple reminder. After which, he slowly disappeared. Two Xiao Yangs were seated facing each other within the spiritual space. One appeared solemn while the other was wrapped within an invisible flame. The avatar's illusionary body was quietly fluctuating within the flame. While the flame was refining it, threads of extremely faint fire seedings slowly merged into the avatar, causing some invisible flames to appear in the transparent body. Night slowly disappeared. When the first rays of morning sun scattered down, Xiao Yang, who was beside a bonfire, slowly opened his eyes. A tiredness was faintly present within them. The exhaustion of Xiao Yang's spiritual strength during the night was not any less than the results of having fought a big battle with others. This avatar tempering is indeed difficult. According to this speed, it will likely require at least 2 months before it can reach the intermediate level. I don't even know when it will be before I can reach complete mastery. The 3000 lightning illusionary body is indeed the most difficult Do technique to practice within the Wind Lightning Pavilion. Let's get moving. The Heaven Eye mountain range is likely already filled with people. I wonder if I will be able to snatch one of the 10 places. This is the opportunity to break through to the Do Zone class. I will not give it up no matter what. Xiao Yang stood on the edge of the mountain range and looked at the large path under the mountain peak. Upon seeing the noisy crowd of people coming and going on the road, Xiao Yang involuntarily felt absent-minded. Training was indeed a lonely and dull thing. If one wanted to become an expert that other people respected in their eyes, the hard work one would have to put in and loneliness one would have to endure was something that an ordinary person had difficulty imagining. This logic was something that Xiao Yang understood ever since he left Wutan City back then. Now, his understanding of this logic was much deeper than before because he had experienced such a feeling during his years of training. Xiao Yang exhaled a deep breath. His finger rubbed the spot between his brows. Due to his training during this period becoming like a habit, the avatar within his spiritual sea was constantly receiving the refinement of the fallen heart flame. Although this was a large burden on Xiao Yang, it was fortunate that he was an alchemist, skilled in how to reduce tiredness. Hence, he was able to get used to this exhaustion. The energy tide of the Heaven Eye mountain range should be about to begin. However, it is fortunate that this place is not far from that location. With my speed, I should be able to reach it within half a day. Xiao Yang took out a map from his storage ring and studied it carefully. After which, his gaze looked to the northern sky as he muttered to himself. His back shook and a pair of jade-green fire wings slowly extended out. Xiao Yang had become a lot more careful after learning that his bone wings belonged to that so-called Heaven Demon Phoenix tribe. The strength of the Heaven Demon Phoenix tribe was definitely stronger than the Wind Lightning Pavilion. He did not wish to invite such trouble at this moment. Hence, he would only use the bone wings at critical times. Although his speed would be greatly reduced as a result, he could only endure it to protect this little life of his. After all, who would have no back then that damn magical beast corpse would invite so much trouble? Xiao Yang's toes pressed on the ground after the fire wings were spread. He immediately rose, and with a swoosh sound, he transformed into a jade-green fire figure that rushed toward the northern sky. The Heaven Eye mountain range was quite well known in the entire northern region of the Central Plains. The most important reason was because of the Heaven Mountain blood pool that appeared once every 3 years. The miraculous effect possessed a great allure to most people. This was definitely why a majority of the people were here. Most of them were of the younger generation, because of the miraculous effect of transforming one's bones and aiding in one's breakthrough, which the blood pool possessed, had an even greater effect on the younger generation. Within the Jioma Empire or the Black Corner region, one could be considered part of a top-tier faction, as long as one possessed a Do Huang or a Do Zong. However, such a top-tier faction could barely be considered to have entered the second tier within the Central Plains. This was the gap between them. As for Do Xing, a faction which possessed an expert that existed in the legends was already considered an extraordinary existence. The fights between ordinary factions appeared like child's play in their eyes. In the eyes of an elite Do Xing, such a fight would instantly collapse with the wave of a hand. Of course, that level was really too far from Xiao Yan and the others. Currently, Xiao Yang's only thought was to allow himself to break through the Do Huang class and advance into the Do Zone class. Only by advancing to the Do Zone class would Xiao Yan have the qualifications to meet Sun Er. That mysterious Jiyu clan behind her was not placed within the so-called one hall, one tower, two sects, 3 valleys, 4 pavilions. However, Xiao Yang was certain that the Jiyu clan definitely possessed a strength that was not weaker than Pill Tower or the Hall of Souls. If he wanted to successfully take Sun Er away from this clan, he must take out a strength that caused them to be unable to refute him. The first precondition of this was for him to advance to the Do Zone class. Xiao Yang continued to travel without resting for 5 hours before an enormous mountain range, covered by a dense fog, slowly appeared within his eyesight. The Heaven Eye mountain range was the largest and tallest mountain range that Xiao Yang had ever seen. Even the magical Beast mountain range within the Jioma Empire could not compare with it. Dense fog covered most of the mountain range, causing one to have difficulty seeing just what was present there. Moreover, the fog seemed to contain an extremely mighty energy. Even Xiao Yang involuntarily felt his heart become worried under this large amount of energy. No wonder no one dared to fly in from the sky. The route in the sky was one with a dead end. Xiao Yang stood high above in the air and looked down at the entry points of the mountain range below. His head involuntarily turned a little numb when he saw the dense dark black sea of people below. Although Xiao Yang knew that the allure of this Heaven Mountain blood pool was definitely quite great, he still felt shocked upon seeing such a great sea of people. The level of difficulty in obtaining the miserable 10 spots from these people was really extraordinary. Xiao Yang bitterly laughed. He chose a deserted place before landing. After which, he leaped down the mountain peak and appeared on a treetop in the Heaven Eye mountain range within a couple of flashes. His gaze swept around and discovered that quite a number of people were sitting cross-legged in the treetops around him. The Heaven Eye mountain range was covered by a cloud all year long. Moreover, there were many powerful magical beasts within it. Hence, there were only 3 safe entry points. The location where Xiao Yang was at was one of them. However, that entrance was occupied by a sea of people. Xiao Yang was sighing in the face of this vast scene when the clear, loud cry of a crane suddenly resounded from the distant sky. Immediately, it attracted all the gazes around it. Xiao Yang's eyes also looked over. He could see a multicolored enormous crane flapping its wings as it swiftly flew toward the Heaven Eye mountain range. Sunlight landed on the multicolored feathers, reflecting a brilliant luster that was unusually gorgeous. The 7-colored soul crane. Isn't this the ride of the Miss Feng from the Wind Lightning Pavilion? Numerous startled voices immediately sounded when everyone saw the massive colorful crane. Xiao Yang was startled upon hearing this. He frowned immediately. It was the Wind Lightning Pavilion again. Xiao Yang also sat down cross-legged in a treetop. His eyes were narrowed as he stared at the enormous colorful crane in the sky from a distance. He was faintly able to see a delicate and moving figure at the head of the crane. I wonder if that Fei Qian has followed them. If that old fellow also came, there will be some trouble this time around. Xiao Yang's eyes slowly swept over the enormous colorful crane as he muttered to himself in his heart. The enormous colorful crane gradually descended from the sky while Xiao Yang was mumbling. Finally, it stopped at a spot 100 meters from the ground. With Xiao Yang's eyesight, he was clearly able to see everything from this distance. The first thing that was imprinted into his eyes was the moving figure in a fluttering dress, standing on the head of the crane. This lady was wearing a colorful dress, and seemed to emit the aura of a distinguished person at a distant glance. Her face was a little thin and oval in shape. This, along with her purplish-brown gem-like eyes, caused this Miss Feng to appear like the princess of an empire, looking both beautiful and holy. She did not fit well into the scene that was filled with people. However, the only imperfection of this holiness was the icy indifference that kept one at a distance, giving her the feeling of being unapproachable. However, a jade must have some flaws in order to reveal its preciousness. This cold indifference did not cause Miss Feng to lose points on her appearance. Her demeanor and beauty were both top quality. Even Xiao Yang softly praised them within his heart. Immediately after that, however, his gaze swiftly turned away, and paused on the two old figures behind the lady. These two old figures looked as though they would fall from a mere breeze. However, Xiao Yang's expression became much more solemn when his gaze swept over these two. Although these two could not compare with Fei Tian, they were quite stronger than the three elders from the Wind Lightning Pavilion, who had attacked him together back then. Their strength seemed to be at least that of a 6-star Dozong. Xiao Yang's gaze carried a solemnness, as it swept over the two old figures. He slowly exhaled a breath in his heart. It was fortunate that they were not that old demon Fei Tian. Although two 6-star Dozongs were troublesome to deal with, Xiao Yang would still rather choose them over Fei Tian. After all, Xiao Yang had to rely on some luck and wittiness in order to flee from the hands of that old demon, who had an incredible strength, and was unbelievably fast. Is that Miss Feng from the Wind Lightning Pavilion? She really lives up to her reputation, and possesses an ability similar to a phoenix. Unexpectedly, even she has been attracted by this Heaven Mountain blood pool. Looks like she will be among the 10 names this time around. Elder Mu, are there anyone from the other 3 pavilions who have come to the Heaven Eye Mountain range? The colorful clothed lady on the enormous crane swept her eyes indifferently over the people below. After which, she opened her mouth and posed a question. Her voice was clear, but it faintly emitted a cold indifference. How is it possible for them not to come? The 10,000 Sword Pavilion's Sky Fountain Sword Tang Ying, the Yellow Spring Pavilion's Wang Chen, and the Falling Star Pavilion's Mu Qingluan. The most outstanding young people from each sect have all been dispatched. They have already reached the peak of the Do Huang class. If they could soak once in the Heaven Mountain blood pool, it would not be long before they break through to the Do Zone class. Who would give up such an opportunity? A green-robed, old man laughed in a strange manner from behind the colorful dressed lady. The lady nodded gently upon hearing this. A faint smile surfaced on her somewhat cold and indifferent face as she replied, "Looks like the fight for the blood pool this time around is going to be a heated one. Young miss, the chief has asked you to be a little careful this time around. The Heaven Mountain blood pool has attracted quite a number of young experts from the northern region this time around. Other than those 3 earlier, there are some other people who also possess the qualification to fight with a few of you. Therefore, it is best to be a little cautious when doing things." That other red-robed elder slowly reminded, for example, that person called Xiao Yang. The colorful clothed lady lifted the corner of her mouth into a slight arc, as she spoke in a soft, somewhat chilly voice. This person is a great enemy that cannot be underestimated. We met with the Northern Pavilion head, Fei Tian, along the way here. That Xiao Yang is actually escaped from his hands. It is likely that one could not even find 5 people in the same generation who could show such an ability. Young miss should also have some understanding of the strength of the Northern Pavilion's chief. Hence, it is only naturally for you to know just how difficult it is to escape from the chief's hands. The matters related to Xiao Yang have been spread all over the Wind Lightning Pavilion recently. Young miss should have also heard of him, the red-robed elder spoke in a solemn voice. The red-robed old man involuntarily frowned when he heard this. He was just about to speak, when the colorful clothed lady in front of him gently shook her snow-white wrist. She slowly said, "Elder Hua, please be reassured that I know my limits and will do my best to be careful. The old me is only giving a reminder. Moreover, it is not certain if that Xiao Yang will come. Although this brat escaped the Northern Pavilion chief earlier, it is likely that he will still feel some fear within his heart." The red-robed old man laughed. The colorful clothed lady slightly smiled. However, her smile revealed a coldness that was difficult to hide. Her eyes swept over the area below before slowly shutting her eyes. The thing she needed to do now was to wait for the start of the energy tide. After which, she would use the fastest speed to arrive at the Heaven Mountain blood pool. Since the other 3 pavilions had also sent out those 3 fellows, the fight this time around would be quite interesting. It would likely not disappoint her. Moreover, the person called Xiao Yang, who had been mentioned earlier, was placed in the back of her mind. Although Xiao Yang had stirred a storm of commotion by killing Chen Yun and forcefully breaking the 9 heavenly lightning prison formation, these matters were attributed to the powerful spiritual body on him. There had been a lot of doubt about Xiao Yang's strength. Such doubt was also possessed by her. The remaining time passed during this monotonous wait. After such a wait continued for nearly 3 days, the energy in this place suddenly became turbulent. The instant the energy in his surroundings changed, Xiao Yang, who had been seated on the top of a tree, finally opened his slightly shut eyes. An unusual expression flashed across his eyes. Is it finally about to begin? The enormous energy tide accompanied the surging. A moment later, it charged through the clouds and spread in a crashing manner. This tide shocked some of the people, who had remained in the sky, forcing them to rush down. If they were to be swept away by the frightening energy tide, even an elite zone would likely be hurt even if they did not die. The enormous energy tide turned into a colorful one. Under the sunlight, it appeared just like an incomparably spacious river. It hung in the sky, looking extremely gorgeous. However, under its brilliance hid a fatal danger. Wave after wave of colorful energy spread out from within the mountain range in an unceasing manner. At this moment, quite a number of people had sensed the energy within the Heaven Eye mountain range become fierce and powerful. Its appearance was like the Heaven Eye mountain range had turned into a magnet that attracted all of the energy over. Even Xiao Yan could not help but feel shocked in the face of this spectacular scene. By relying on his extraordinary spiritual perception, he could clearly sense the colorful energy within it had reached an extremely frightening level. This place is indeed worthy of being the Central Plains. Such a scene is not something that one would be blessed enough to see in other places. Xiao Yang stood up after letting out a soft laugh. His gaze was thrown toward the Heaven Eye mountain range. At this moment, the energy within the mountain range had become so dense that it caused one to be surprised. Although one would not be able to train for long within it, such an attempt would definitely make for some efficient training. No wonder so many people were attracted despite clearly knowing that there were only 10 spots in the Heaven Mountain blood pool. It was likely that quite a number of people were planning to train within the mountain range during this period of time. Xiao Yang's gaze shifted over the mountain range before finally pausing on the entrance. The great sea of people there had already begun to move. Regardless of where one was, the first always had some special benefit. It was likely that the first person who entered this Heaven Mountain blood pool would also obtain the best effect. Hence, everyone wanted to be that lucky first. Xiao Yang's eyes looked at the sea of people only to end up smiling. There was a fiery heat within his eyes. The fight for this Heaven Mountain blood pool had somewhat exceeded his expectations. It was likely that this competition would also be quite exciting. Moreover, he also wanted to try and see just what level the members of the younger generation in the Central Plains were at. Elders, the both of you should wait outside of the mountain range. Leave the rest to me. The colorful dressed lady on the enormous crane glanced at the torrent-like human flow below before speaking faintly to the 2 old men on the enormous crane. Yes. The 2 elders hurriedly nodded their heads when they heard her words. The colorful clothed lady smiled gently upon seeing this. This fight for the Heaven Mountain blood pool was a grand event that occurred once every 3 years. Moreover, most of those who joined were from the younger generation. Being able to stand out in this place was proof of one's ability and talent. The colorful clothed lady pressed her toes gently on the crane's head. With a twist of her delicate waist, she transformed into a colorful light that shot forward. In a couple of flashes, she appeared at the front of the flow of people. Her black hair danced in the wind behind her. This mesmerizing scene caused quite a number of men to reveal a look of amazement in their eyes. The colorful clothed lady did not turn her head around to look at the sea of people behind her. Although she knew that there were some people who were quite skilled behind her, these people did not reach the level where they could catch her attention. The colorful lady's toes pressed against empty air, and a faint silver glow appeared. She looked at the entrance within close proximity, and the corner of her mouth was involuntarily lifted into a faint arc. Her figure was just like a noble phoenix that descended toward the entrance. The rushing sound of rapid wind suddenly appeared when the colorful clothed lady was about to fly into the entrance. Something flashed over extremely quickly. Within 2 breaths, the figure had rushed above the lady's head. The sudden appearance of the human figure also caused the colorful clothed lady to be slightly startled. Her brows were immediately knit together as her hand was clenched toward the human figure in front of her. A fierce suction force immediately surged from her hand. That human figure merely let out a cold snort in the face of this colorful clothed lady's attempt to stop him. He flipped his hand and a wild and violent wind surged out of his sleeves. The 2 invisible winds collided in mid-air, emitting a low, deep sound as they did so. With the aid of the repulsion force, the human figure drew an arc through the air, landing in the mountain range. Damn it, who is that little fellow? He has actually entered the mountain range ahead of Miss Fong. Ha ha, the old me has said that with so many present, there will definitely be dark horses appearing. It is just that I did not expect it to be so soon. The expression of the colorful clothed lady was quite ugly after seeing that an unknown person had actually entered before her. She let out a snort in the face of the noise behind her. Her body moved, transforming into a figure that quickly entered the mountain range. A graceful colorful figure landed within the mountain range while Xiao Yan was frowning. Her pretty eyes swept around her and instantly paused on the back of a person not far in front of her. Xiao Yan did not turn his head despite sensing the slight activity behind him. Instead, his body moved and swiftly rushed into the mountain range. Halt! The colorful clothed lady immediately cried out coldly upon seeing that Xiao Yan was about to leave. However, Xiao Yan appeared to have not heard her cry. His footsteps had instead become even faster. The rushing sound of wind suddenly appeared behind him while Xiao Yan was increasing his pace. His expression turned slightly chilly. His footsteps staggered as a colorful satin accompanied by a sharp wind shot past his head, narrowly missing it. Finally, the colorful satin penetrated through an enormous tree in front of him. Although the colorful satin seemed to be made of cloth, it possessed a metallic luster. Clearly, it was not an ordinary item. Surprise also flashed through the pretty eyes of the colorful clothed lady when she saw Xiao Yang strangely dodge her attack. Her hand shook and another colorful satin shot out from her sleeves. This satin appeared like a poisonous snake that curled in midair and trickily entwined around Xiao Yang. A fury had also risen in Xiao Yang's heart in the face of this lady's repeated disturbance. He abruptly turned around and extended his hand in a lightning-like manner, grabbing the satin that shot over as he did so. A jade-green flame appeared in his palm, before immediately touching the satin, turning it into a fire trail that shot toward the lady. The colorful clothed lady's face turned cold when she saw the fire trail heading over. A powerful green-silver do chi that seemed to be the merger of wind and lightning shot along the satin. Finally, it violently collided with the trail of fire. Bang! A low, deep explosion erupted in this quiet mountain range. These two powerful energies scattered most of the dense fog around. A half-a-meter deep pit appeared on the ground. At this moment, quite a number of people had entered the mountain range. They hurriedly rushed over upon hearing the activity in this area. All of them were startled when they saw that the person fighting was the renowned Miss Feng. Their surprised eyes were quickly thrown toward the unfamiliar-looking man opposite her. Someone who could exchange blows with her was definitely not an ordinary person, a do chi formed from the merger of wind and lightning. Miss Feng from the Wind Lightning Pavilion does live up to her reputation. Xiao Yang's eyes stared intently at the colorful clothed lady as he slowly spoke. At the same time, the colorful satin did not show any signs of breaking despite having experienced such a violent attack. It was indeed unexpected that this woman possessed a body that contained two elements. Such a constitution might not be as rare as the woeful poison body, but it was also seldom seen. If one were to talk about it, Xiao Yang could be also considered to possess a body that contained two elemental affinities, fire and wood. Of course, the fire affinity formed the majority of his constitution, while wood was only present in a small amount. This was the case for every single alchemist since this was the requirement. A two-elemental affinity constitution was not very suitable for training because the elements were not pure. It was still all right for a constitution like that of Xiao Yang. The wood affinity only occupied a small part of his body. However, this woman in front of him was not only able to train until now, but was actually able to perfectly merge these two elemental do chis together. The strength of this merged do chi would soar. By being able to destroy my Wind Lightning Pavilion's 9 heavenly lightning prison formation, and successfully escape from Northern Pavilion Chief Fei Tian's hands, you also live up to your reputation. The colorful clothed lady's pretty eyes focused intently on the skinny, young man in front of her before suddenly laughing softly. Don't you agree, Xiao Yang? The faces of the surrounding people suddenly paled when these words were uttered. Xiao Yang. He is the Xiao Yang who killed Chen Yun. Numerous stunned gazes were looking at the young man a short distance away, within a forest that was permeated by fog. The name Xiao Yang had been spread wildly during this period of time. It was rare that someone from the younger generation could force an expert like Fei Tian to personally act. Moreover, the thing that was even more shocking was that this person was able to escape from Fei Tian's hands. This really stunned many people. There was hardly anyone within the northern region of the Central Plains who did not know just how terrifying that old demon Fei Tian was. Xiao Yang eyebrows merely knit together in the face of the many gazes that contained various emotions from around him. His arm shook and the colorful satin in his hand was shot back, before it was withdrawn into the sleeves of the colorfully dressed lady, you can walk your own path, and I will take my own route. If you don't disturb me, I will also not attack you." Xiao Yang stared at the colorfully dressed lady as he slowly spoke. He could sense that the strength of this lady was quite great. Moreover, had been picked as the most probable candidate for the position of the next Wind Lightning Pavilion's leader. Xiao Yang definitely did not believe that she did not possess any skill. Currently, Xiao Yang's aim was to become one of those 10 names. Thus, he did not want to engage in a direct conflict with her. Naturally, he did not wish to waste his efforts right from the start. What an arrogant tone. "I will also not attack you now. I will wait for you at the Heaven Mountain Blood Pool. If you have the qualifications to reach that place, we will settle the grudge that you and the Wind Lightning Pavilion possess." The colorful-clothed lady's pretty eyes looked at Xiao Yang as she softly laughed. Her laughter contained a coldness. "Of course, if you have been defeated before you even reach the Heaven Mountain Blood Pool, it will only mean that all the things that you have accomplished are due to you borrowing the strength of others." The colorful-clothed lady pressed her toes on the ground after her voice sounded. Her body was like a dancing butterfly. She pulled back with a flash before swiftly disappearing into the thick fog. Xiao Yang laughed coldly in his heart when he saw the colorful-clothed lady withdraw. His gaze swept all around him as he slowly walked in another direction. A moment later, he disappeared within the fog in front of many gazes. It's a pity that they did not actually fight. I wonder just who would be stronger if the two of them were to really exchange blows. The surrounding crowd inevitably became disappointed after watching these two people take separate routes, leaving upon meeting each other. Xiao Yang's figure flashed and appeared within the forest that was permeated by fog. His gaze swept around him as he frowned. This fog was blended with energy that could not be expelled. It greatly hindered one's sight. A person was just like a headless housefly within it, repeatedly running around in a random manner. The map is completely useless. The only thing that I know is that the Heaven Mountain Blood Pool is located in the deep regions of the Heaven Eye Mountain range. However, how long will it take to reach the deep region if I continue to randomly roam around? Xiao Yang paused his footsteps and mused for a moment. His body suddenly leaped and appeared on the top of a tree branch. His eyes swept around before he swiftly leaped up. A moment later, he finally appeared on the top of a tree. Xiao Yang stood at the treetop and swept his eyes around only to be stunned to realize that the fog on it was even denser. His gaze was unable to see anything even if it was less than 10 meters from him. Xiao Yang raised his head and looked up. He involuntarily pulled his neck in upon doing so, because an enormous colorful energy tide was spreading out from above. A wave of energy pressure that could not be resisted spread out, causing one to feel afraid. I cannot use old Mr. Yao's strength within the Heaven Eye Mountain range. Otherwise, the effect would be unpredictable. Hence, I can only rely on myself, Xiao Yang softly sighed. He knew that the Miss Feng was definitely clearly aware of the route to reach the Heaven Mountain Blood Pool. With the ability of the Wind Lightning Pavilion, they should be quite familiar with this Heaven Eye Mountain range. The problem of the fog should have long been expected by them. Hence, she was able to rush to the destination without any fear and save the time wasted on other routes. Since the Wind Lightning Pavilion had a clear route, the other factions like the 10,000 Sword Pavilion and some of the weaker factions would likely have also made preparations. Thus, it was likely that their numbers would exceed 10. Xiao Yang was quite far behind them on just this first step. It is good to possess a faction behind one. The Heaven Mountain Blood Pool will appear one day after the energy tide appears. In other words, I must reach that place within one day. Otherwise, I will not have the blessing of enjoying the Heaven Mountain Blood Pool. Xiao Yang bitterly laughed. He mused for a moment before he suddenly sat down with his legs crossed. His spiritual perception swiftly spread from between his brows. Xiao Yang ceased hiding after seeing that he had been discovered. He revealed himself, swept his gaze over the black-clothed man, and said, I am only passing by. There is no need to be anxious. The eyes of the black-clothed man coldly studied Xiao Yang. The other party's age seemed to be a little younger than him. However, based on his sharp senses honed from having fought with others for many years, the man could vaguely sense a slight dangerous feeling from Xiao Yang. His heart was slightly startled. Although he clearly knew that those who could arrive at this place at such a time definitely had some skills, there were not many who could cause him to feel a little danger. I am Tang Ying from the 10,000 Sword Pavilion. You seem a little unfamiliar. May I know which faction do you belong to, or which clan do you come from? The black-clothed young man cupped his hands to Xiao Yan as he inquired. He had heard about a little of the experts from the younger generation within the Central Plains. However, this was indeed the first time whom he had seen the person in front of him. Therefore, he had asked in a more detailed fashion. It was right to ask a little more when one roamed the world. The worst were those people who do not know their limits and think that their father is the strongest when they are nothing. Fortunately, this 10,000 sword pavilion Tang Ying was not such a person. Otherwise, he might well end up being finished in this place. That would be a pity to his half a lifetime of training and the great expectations from his faction, 10,000 sword pavilion. Xiao Yang felt startled in his heart when he heard this name. It was unexpected that this person was someone from the 10,000 sword pavilion. Moreover, the name Tang Ying was one that he had heard of when he had been outside of the mountain range. He was also a young, talented person who was comparable to Miss Feng from the Wing Lightning Pavilion. Xiao Yang hesitated for a moment before cupping his hands together and replying, Xiao Yang, Xiao Yang. A shock expression appeared on Tang Ying's cold face when he heard this name. He looked at Xiao Yang and said, the Xiao Yang who has recently had a fiery hot conflict with the Wind Lightning Pavilion. Xiao Yang smiled and mentioned casually, it is merely a little conflict. Xiao Yang helplessly shook his head upon seeing that this fellow was walking so quickly. These fellows seemed to possess a cautious mind. Xiao Yang wanted to walk together with a person who knew the way, but the other party seemed to be unwilling to contribute his resources to be shared. However, it made sense when Xiao Yang thought about it. If there was one additional person who reached the Heaven Mountain blood pool, there would be an additional competitor. Who would want to find an opponent for themselves for no reason? But what is this Heaven Mountain stage that this fellow mentioned? This place is really foreign to me and all the information is indeed hidden, Xiao Yang frowned. He let out a soft sigh as his toes pressed on a tree branch. His body was just like a large bird that plunged down. Finally, he also charged into the dense fog. Xiao Yang also lost the ease that he had felt earlier in the subsequent journey, because the strength of the magical beasts around him was gradually growing stronger. Moreover, quite a number of magical beasts were quite troublesome to deal with. Even though Xiao Yang relied on his spiritual perception, he was still unable to successfully escape all of them. Naturally, he had no choice but to fight. Hence, his speed was greatly reduced. However, Xiao Yang had no other choice. He did not have a path, and it was impossible for him to come to this place without relying on the flow of energy to act as a signboard. The Heaven Eye mountain range was incomparably vast. This, along with the lingering fog, made it appear just like a maze. The number of people around decreased the deeper Xiao Yang headed into the mountain range. Xiao Yang had only met two others after Tang Ying. These two people were quite strong, with the both of them being at the Do Huang class. They were engaged in an intense battle with a rank 6 magical beast when Xiao Yang discovered them. However, it was clear that these two people's perception was not as sharp as Tang Ying. Hence, they did not discover Xiao Yang's trail. All they did was roughly observe their surroundings before quietly leaving. Time also swiftly flowed by while Xiao Yang was charging ahead. Following the change in the weather, the visibility within the forest was gradually reduced. In the end, one could not even see one's 5 fingers. Following the arrival of night, the magical beasts within the Heaven Eye mountain range seemed to have become more active. Numerous beast roars repeatedly sounded before reverberating across the mountain range. A figure suddenly flashed within the dark forest where one could not even see one's fingers. Immediately, a palm was violently imprinted on the body of a magical beast hidden to the side. The force surged out and shook the beast until it heavily collided against a tree trunk. It had lost its life before it had the time to let out a roar. A human figure gently landed on a tree branch amid the darkness. He let out a rough breath and a moonlight stone was lifted. Warm light was emitted and was immediately reflected by the surrounding fog. However, Xiao Yang's young face was revealed with the help of the light. The night journey was much harder than Xiao Yang had expected. Quite a number of powerful and cunning magical beasts were hidden in the darkness. They were just like hunters waiting for their prey to deliver themselves to them. If Xiao Yang did not have the help of his spiritual perception, it was likely that at least over 10 injuries would have appeared on his body. The danger of the Heaven Eye mountain range had exceeded his expectations. Xiao Yang took out a medicinal pill and stuffed it in his mouth as his gaze glanced at the corpse of the magical beast a short distance away. He quickly sat cross-legged. Traveling through the night had exhausted him. Additionally, fighting with those troublesome magical beasts along the way had used up quite a bit of his strength. Xiao Yan only slowly opened his eyes after resting for nearly half an hour. He once again sensed the energy flow in the mountain range, and there was a little joy in his eyes. The feeling of the flow was becoming increasingly obvious. Clearly, Xiao Yan was getting closer to that location. I should put in more effort. Hopefully, I will be able to catch up to those fellows before morning arrives. Xiao Yan licked his mouth and quietly laughed. His body moved, transforming into a black figure that once again entered the dark forest. When the sky gradually brightened, the magical beasts, which were unusually active at night, also gradually withdrew. The beast roars in the mountain range had also weakened. Xiao Yan landed gently on a gigantic tree. His hand grabbed at the empty space in front of him. The powerful energy that was contained within the fog caused his face to reveal his shock. The density of the energy in this place is incredible. No wonder it is able to form a mysterious thing like the Heaven Mountain Blood Pool. It is likely that this place is already in the deepest regions of the Heaven Eye Mountain Range, Xiao Yang softly muttered. He immediately braced his attention. Looking at this, it seemed that he was about to arrive at his destination. Xiao Yang parted his mouth. His face also involuntarily revealed a smile that seemed to have placed a heavy burden down. He was just about to move when his ear suddenly moved. The faint sound of blades colliding, as well as energy exploding, was transmitted over from a spot not far to his left. Xiao Yang's gaze glanced toward his left before it was quickly withdrawn. He had seen a lot of similar situations along the way. Xiao Yang was not a saint and did not spend the effort to help each person he passes. With a shake of his head, Xiao Yang moved his toes and continued forward. However, the instant he was about to move, a moving lady's cry penetrated through the fog and was transmitted into Xiao Yang's ears. Immediately, his figure, which was about to flash away, completely stiffened. This voice was moving and wonderful. It was likely that its owner was a beauty. Moreover, Xiao Yang was not unfamiliar with this voice. He even felt that it had stirred a particularly deep memory. This video will end here. Thank you for watching.